Happy Tuesday, guys. Welcome back to Inside the Lines. More NBA playoffs tonight. We'll hit tonight's games and we'll take a look at tomorrow's games, get some early value here. We got a longer shelf life, a lot more time to look at some of these props, which is always good news for the team. We'll do some college baseball and some MLB as well. And of course, all of your questions, let us know in the chat. All right, let's bring in Stephen and Jake, take a look at Monday's recap here. As seen, Tobias Harris keeps me from a 3-0 night after scoring 10 points in the first half and 0 in the second. We needed 3 points from him. Thank you for nothing. Sixers lose. That was miserable. Jake with the Kyle Schwarber live impulse bet in the middle of the show. That cashes. NBA, Austin Reeves, our dog, not coming through so far in the playoffs.
But I get a half unit for being completely wrong. I said I'm playing Austin Reeves, I'm fading D'Angelo Russell, and if Russell has a big game, I'm in trouble. And he had an awesome game shooting. So I was completely right in terms of...
Your storyline was correct.
This is like the Bizarro pick, right? It was this just like Superman, but complete opposite.
Austin Reeves on your S list. That's crazy talk.
We've decided instead of S list, we've created a whole kind of purgatory-ish type thing where they think of something kind of radioactive. They need to have some clean for a little, so you stay away from them for a little while.
Yeah. Something that keeps them away from us. I think player prop jail is sufficient, but that's what I'm calling it.
Too harsh, yeah.
No, Tobias Harris is in player prop jail for me. Okay. Tyrese Maxey, though, does score the first basket. We finally cashed Tyrese Maxey first basket prop. That did pretty well on Instagram there for the Sportsline team. All right. We're talking too much. We got to get into the nuts and bolts of it here. Actually, I see a really pretty graph on Steven's screen, so I'm actually going to share that right now because that shows how well we've been doing, I'd say. Nice trend line up.
So I think this dip is good. It's good to have. So we've had a couple dips recently, but overall really solid. I like this connecting the dots. So far, so good in terms of avoiding massive drops in exchange for slight consistent upticks. I'm feeling good today.
All right, me too. I got some plays myself. I see some people talking about Mookie Betts in the group chat. So me and Jake are going to get into some college baseball here. Start answering other NBA questions. I'll throw Steven into the chat here. We'll get into the MLB here. We'll start with Mookie Betts here. We got a prop for him.
Yeah, Mookie Betts over 1.5 total bases, minus 135. It was minus 160 on FanDuel at the same time as it was minus 135 on ESPN. So if you want to share my screen, I can show you some of why we like Mookie Betts today. Go to the Dodgers game. Here we go. So Mookie is projected for 2.54 total bases, which is pretty insane. His consensus line is 1.5 at minus 145. So you're getting good value on ESPN at minus 135. I think it was alternating between minus 135 and minus 140. I'm not sure where it's at now. Hopefully you get a minus 135 somewhere. But just he's 7 for 14 in his career off Corbin with 4 extra base hits. And if you look at his game log, I think he's starting to, he's due. He's 0-0-1-1, but he's definitely due for a big game. He walked 3 times 2 games ago, and he's going up against a pitcher that he breaks against. So I like Mookie today.
Mm-hmm. All right. I got a question on T. Houck over here and his strikeout prop set up 5.
So Tanner Houck in the Boston game probably have value if it's at 5. We have him at 5.33, so not much value, but probably like even value. His consensus line looks like it's 4.5 minus 111, so you probably get 4.5 in some places. Is it 5 plus?
Yes.
So yeah, we got some value there. Don't mind it, but Cleveland has a lot of contact hitters, not a lot of guys who are strikeout prone. Besides, like Esteban Florial, he'll strike out quite a bit. But these guys like Juan and Jimenez and Ramirez and Naylor, they're all contact guys, high average, low strikeouts. That's what their team is built on. So I don't hate it, don't love it.
All right. We don't hate it. We don't love it. Moving on here, we'll go back to one of your props to the Braves. Ozuna, is that how we say it? New player unlocked for Kens?
Marcell Ozuna. Yes, he is having a really strong season. Doesn't have the best history as a person, but he's been really good as a player. I know there's been a lot of controversy about that on Twitter lately, or X, or whatever you want to call it. But if you look at Ozuna's game log, I think it's 7 RBI. It's seven of the last 10, or 8 of the last 10 games. It's 7 of the last 10 games. He's an RBI. He's just on fire, and he's coming off a game where he didn't have an RBI, and so he's due. If you look at the new form that Steven has up here, we have him projected for 0.6. His consensus line is 0.5 at plus 123. At bet 365, you could get plus 130. So pretty good value there. And it's interesting because we don't have him projected for a ton of hits, runs, and RBIs compared to like Matt Olson or Ronald Acuna, but we have him at 0.6 RBIs compared to Acuna at 0.49 and Olson at 0.52.
All right. Good stuff there. I don't have anything to add to that because I just figured out who this was. Okay, let's move on to another play. We're going with a little parlay here, going with the Padres, and then Michael King, who's Yankees?
No, Michael King is on the Padres. It's a same game parlay. He was on the Yankees. He was in the Juan Soto deal to San Diego.
Could have been more.
So you get a half a point there.
Thank you.
We're giving lots of half points today. But we have Michael King projected for 6.67 strikeouts, and we really like this matchup for the Padres against Feltner, who's actually been better this season, but I don't love Feltner, and even though his name is very similar to mine, I think he's due to get hit pretty hard.
Okay. All right, let's take a look at one more question before we get into college basketball. God, I can't do that again. College baseball. Logan Gilbert here, his strikeout line set up 5.5.
Yeah, so Gilbert. I was actually looking into the Seattle game, because Cal Raleigh's been really good historically against Dane Dunning, which is interesting because it's an FSU-UF matchup. Dane Dunning went to UF, Cal Raleigh went to FSU. So they probably played against each other. Like Gilbert, we have projected for 6 strikeouts. Not a ton of value, but he's been really good as of late. So I don't mind the play if he's hit that in his last 4 games. In all 4 games this season, he's hit. His stuff's been really good. And while Texas could be really good, they have some of these guys who are strikeout prone. Even though they put up a ton of numbers, they are strikeout prone as well. They're boom or bust.
Boom or bust. Good to know. Good to know. All right, let's rapid fire through a few college plays here that we were looking at. We'll start with Santa Clara plus the 130 money line.
Yeah, midweek home underdogs going with Santa Clara here. Let me pull up the college baseball database. But I think we actually like Stanford here, but when push comes to shove, you got to fade Stanford.
Missed my arm. The name of our good friend John.
Yes, exactly. Let me find this game. See, it's even harder to navigate in college baseball. So we have it pretty much. It's the bottom. We have this pretty much in line with the odds at plus 130. But I think Santa Clara is just worth the money line sprinkle at plus 130 against Stanford. Stanford is coming off a really good series win against Oregon at home. But they're not as good on the road, and they're kind of coming off like a really good series win. I feel like they're due still for a letdown right here.
Okay, fade Stanford. I can get behind that. All right, let's take a look at the same game here, but we're going with the run total.
Yeah, going with the over here. And if you look at Santa Clara, they put up a ton of runs in their games. The 8 games that we have in the database, it's averaging 16.2 runs. I like 13.5 here. Yes, Stanford has been better as of late, but some of their games that have still been really high scoring. These games against Oregon this past weekend were 10-7, 15-7, and 19-7. Before that, it was 12-8 and 11-10. So these Stanford games have been really high scoring. They went through a lot of pitchers, and that series went over Oregon. So I think this could be a really high scoring game. So I like the over at 13.5. I'd take it probably up to 15.
Okay. Up to 15. I like that. Then we'll head over to an under here on this Wednesday midweek slate.
Yeah, I'm going UCSB LMU under 12.5. If it's 13 on DK, 12.5 on Hard Rock, but I got to give a Hard Rock bet for some of our Florida people. So I'm going with under 12.5 at plus 100. So you're getting good value. I compare it to 12.5 or 13 at minus 115 on DraftKings. We have it at 12. I just think UCSB's pitching's pretty good. They're hitting. They were a funny game the other day on Friday. The UCSB was being no hit through 7, and they were up 1-0. And it just shows you the wackiness that is college baseball.
Yeah, a language not many of us speak. Only you, Jake. And that's why we have you here. That's why we pay you the big bucks. All right, I'm going to send you to the chat to answer any other baseball, college, or MLB questions that you guys have. Me and Steven are going to kick it to the association for these playoff games for tonight. And we're going to take a look in tomorrow too, because we're that good. We want to get ahead of the lines. So let's start with tonight's games.
I want to know who the hell approved big bucks for Jake. I don't remember doing that. But anyway, he deserves it. I was totally right that this line steamed because it went all the way from plus 106 to plus 104. So I did think it would go more than that. But Anthony Edwards over 1.5 steals. The line is, I'm fading the season trends. The average under 1.5. I'm just going on what I've seen recently, which is a nice 6-5 over recently with 2-3+ steal games. Obviously, a good, healthy average against the Suns. He's talking trash. He's playing like Michael Jordan, and the Michael Jordan that I grew up cheering against. So imagine what that's like, being a huge NBA fan and cheering against Michael Jordan. His whole thing was, when in playoff game, he would just like play passing lanes, go for breakaway dunks, get the crowd in the game, or shut down the visiting crowd. But in this case, get the crowd in the game. So I like Ant to continue playing aggressively and using his athleticism here.
All right, fair enough.
And this is my Mike Conley pick that I have to do every 7 to 10 days, or I apparently
it's time for the quota.
Disappear. Yeah. So far, I'm 2-1. I actually done this play 4 times. One time he was a scratch, so he didn't play. But 2-1, and the 2-1, one was like a plus 135, one was plus 124. You can see this line's coming down, but the odds makers still insist on giving plus money. Again, I was totally right. It steamed all the way to plus 104.
Wow, you're so awesome and smart, Steven.
Yeah, exactly.
You want me to what do
that
you want?
form, and my unit price, that's at least 4 cents that I'm saving there. 2.9 rebounds. So again, plus money on less than season average. Let's go with it. The rebounding was the story of game 1. Minnesota decimated Phoenix, plus 25, I believe. So the word is going to be out from Phoenix's side. You got to hit the boards, and I think Minnesota is going to respond. And both teams are going to be particularly focused on that aspect.
Speaking of, we got a question in the chat about Rudy Gobert. 13 is his rebound line. Do we have any value there from the model?
We only have 12.3. So he's been rebounding a ton. I think the reason why we don't have more is in the model, we do have obviously a simulation where team A is rebounding against team B, but statistically you're also kind of rebounding against your teammates. And so with Karl Anthony Towns back, along with Naz Reid and other bigs, like
and Mike Conley crashing the boards.
Exactly. Yeah.
Obviously.
So now if Gobert has 14 and Conley has 2, I'll be quite upset. And if it's because he takes one that is falling to Conley, the more I say the negative scenario, the less likely it'll happen, I think.
Sure. That's what I told myself about Tobias Harris, but here we are.
Exactly.
In jail. Jake is sending an early welcome to Wright State baseball to the S list before the game's even over. That could be bad juju. So I don't know if I can put them in there yet, but we'll get the graphic going with everybody in jail. Okay. I have a few plays for this game,
Sorry.
if I may here. Eric Gordon over 1.5 3 points made at plus 128. Very similar situation to Gary Harris Jr., which I gave out yesterday. Would be impressive to be performing as bad as he has the past 3 games, really, I should say. 0 for 8, I believe, in his past 2 games that he's played. So I have to imagine they'll be leaving him open. I can't imagine he is Minnesota's biggest priority tonight. So I think this could be a good get-right spot for him and the Suns in general. I think this is a good spot for the Suns. So hopefully everyone gets involved. Grayson Allen, questionable. Maybe that could play into this as well. Maybe he has a little more of a spotlight on him. And then we're going Nurkic over 2.5 blocks and steals. I know this is scary, Steven. Makes a little what I like to call too much sense here. But he's been a block and steal machine against Minnesota here. Had 11 combined blocks and steals in the past 2 games, averaging 3 against them on the season. And to get plus 135 at this number feels like I have to be taking it.
And he got those in just 47 total minutes. So that's a pretty badass per minute average.
Right? And he's not doing much else, points and rebounds wise. So he might as well stick to his blocks and steals if that's what's keeping him on the floor. I don't really care. But I have to imagine this has a good chance of hitting. This could be a first quarter sweat or first quarter cash, or I could look like an idiot tonight. So that's what I got for that game. So
No, it's not you. It would be, in this case, Nurkic, who looks like an idiot for not doing his part.
True. I was close to doing Nurkic double-double, which we do have him projected just for 10 points and 10 rebounds. So I think it was plus 250 at the time. So don't hate that play as well. But nonetheless, let's talk about Indiana, Milwaukee. Indiana really trying to do anything to look better than we did last game.
Yeah, that was dismal. I had Halliburton. I'm scared off. I was right that in this case, Halliburton's PRA line did steam up a point at least from yesterday, but I'm not going to go with it, even though the model's projecting it, because he's just not shooting enough. I'm going to go with, but I am expecting Halliburton to come out aggressively offensively. And so that would leave Patrick Beverley to be a primary defender. So I like Beverley to play a lot of minutes. And then with Giannis doubtful, maybe he's officially ruled out by now, there's 6.5 assists that Giannis accounts for. So Beverley will be there along with Dame as a ball distributor. So when Beverley played at least 24 minutes this year, the over was 17-7. Since Giannis' injury, there's 4 games that he's missed, and the over's 3-1, 30, and he played 37, 26, and 24, 30 minutes. So again, I like this. He's just playing a normal role, and 1 turnover is a pretty good game for a point guard playing 30 minutes.
Yeah, this is true. I almost took an assist. 4.5 just felt like a really ugly number for me. I'm scared off if they get cold. They had a pretty hot shooting day, just at least the start in the first half, and you'd be worried about them regressing. They had a 26% 3-point shooting to end the season, then 38 last game, and first half was probably way higher than that. So I'd be worried. Indiana's not a great defensive team, but in the past, Rick Carlisle's been good at adjustments. Yeah, fair enough. I got a lot of questions about Doncic in the chat, so let's address those quick. Let's just take a look at his stat line in general, see where we have any value.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I think points and assists are given. I don't think Dallas is going to score 29 in the first half again. So that's why his PRA is already down to 52.5 because he had 6 assists, because the team couldn't score in the first half. I think I like that. What's the line on the double? So double, I bet if it's anywhere close to even, I would jump at it. If it's minus 180, minus 200.
Allow me to take a look.
Yeah. Triple double, again, if it's always fun to, if it's in the range of plus 180.
All right, let's take a look. We got minus 300 for double. No, thank you. That's
steep. Yeah.
Triple double is. Sorry, here it is. Mm-hmm. It is plus 275.
Sure, I could. That's that seems like a good value. If you think it's like an 80% chance of him getting a double, and then.
Might as well throw
45% chance of getting the rebounds as well. Mm-hmm. Now, I do hope. Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
How about our boy Zubac? Over 9.5 rebounds.
Well, yeah, I loved him last game when he delivered very early for me in points, but then his line steamed up, so I haven't looked at him. We have 10 rebounds projected, so if it's normal juice minus 115, I think that's a good bet. Mm-hmm. I do think that the one I'm going here for is Daniel Gafford, 8.5 points. He rolled his ankle early, and so he didn't play many minutes. And I'm not sure how Kawhi playing, if that helps or hurts. I don't know if it makes a difference for the other side. I just think Gafford is somewhat due. He had like Wilt Chamberlain like stretches of field goal made. He shoots over 70% from the field. Before his last 2 games, where he only had 3 and 6 points, he was on a 14-5 over 8.5 points. I think that he got kind of roughed up in game 1. The whole team did, especially by Zubac. So they'll need him to step up. Lively's a little thinner. And so hopefully they'll need Gafford for his beef and more of an offensive threat. Again, just doesn't score 9 points. He doesn't have to be Wilt Chamberlain from that standpoint. Yeah. And other centers who average similar point production, they are 12-8 over. And they're, but they are due. The last 3 have not hit over this.
That was a crazy stat when I read this earlier. You were like, centers against them are due.
Are due. Yeah, the collective.
I'm looking at PJ Washington over here to have over 11.5 points at around even money. Had 11 last game. I think all of the supporting cast should probably be playing a little bit better. He's hit this in 6 of his last 9 here. And I think he's pretty capable of doing this again at even money. I think it's worth the gamble here. I don't think the model agrees, but sometimes I got to go off on my own.
If it's even money, we have it 11.6 points. So this would
Sure.
fit our
Perfect.
agreement. Yeah.
Perfect. We have a Wright State alum in the chat. This is really awkward. We mean everything we said. They're in jail now. I'm so sorry. All right, let's move on here. I think that's all the plays we have for this game, correct?
Yeah, I think so. Miami, Boston.
Yes, onward to tomorrow.
So, this game's the line open is like a really big -15.5. I think people still have faith that Miami won't get completely blown out 2 games in a row in the playoffs, but you could still get 14.5. I would probably take that. We have 13.5, so nothing there. I'm going to go with Bam Adebayo. He's blocks and steals. So it's not too steep, -140. I kind of like to buy low value on the fact that he had 0 blocks and steals in game 1. He's had 0 steals in his last 3 games, so he's due to get those. Before this recent stretch, he was on a 16-8 overrun. So I just think that he'll get the minutes. He'll have a little bit of fire lit under him after them getting demolished for the first 3 quarters of that game.
What's the inflation on Hawkes over here? Do you think it's out of hand now?
I'm still receiving a line of 23.5, which I could imagine is not. I wouldn't bet the over on that. Might be time for him to, as you say, come back down to earth a little bit.
Yeah, agreed.
Statistically, but we had 20. We don't like his under. We have under in all the main categories, just by a shade. So
I'd like to point out that I was really ready to take Bam over half a 3, and everybody at this company told me not to, and he did. So I'd like that on record. Just gotta trust my gut here. Not listen to any of you guys.
Yeah. What do we know?
Yeah, what do you guys know? Honestly, I'm like a 20-year sports betting expert.
Or a month. Let's see. A person I was tempted to take is Derek White. I just think he steps up big in these situations. He had 20 points in game 1 on just 10 field goal attempts. Drew Holiday, I think maybe with his injuries, isn't looking to shoot as much, and so a lot of the guard scoring is coming from White.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know. Boston player props really something we've kind of stayed off this season. A little bit scary when
there's too many of them, too many players.
Yeah,
and then it runs into this a risk of blowing people out and sitting, and it's a little like it's still hard to predict.
Yeah. All right, let's move on to the one more game for Wednesday. This is where we live with our player props here. New Orleans and OKC are a big part of our player prop. I'm blanking on the word. Yes, thank you.
Pedigree. Yeah. I don't know. I'm gonna even though we have great model value on Giddey's PRA, I'm scared off by his last 2 games really, but game 1 was not pretty for him. So I am gonna go back to one of the reasons why he wasn't playing so well is the defense. CJ McCollum had 3 blocks and steals, and we're getting again. This is the classic. Even though he has a lower road average and the over is only 14-20, his overall season is a 1.6 average. So this hits my threshold of good plus money on under the season average. I am more confident in his recent trend, which is 5-2 over, and 4 of those 5 overs were on the road. So even though the season trend is not looking good, it's looked a lot better recently. He's had back-to-back 3 block and steal games, so maybe he's due for a not so great game, but Or how did you put it, Ellie McKenzie? It was
makes way too much sense.
Makes way too much sense. So this is my version of Nurkic, I guess, right?
Yeah, fair. We can't both miss, right?
No, yeah, exactly. That's mathematically impossible, I believe.
Yeah, that literally can never happen. We're too good together.
TJ McConnell, I wanted to jump back.
We got a few lingering questions before we hit the recap screen here.
10.5 points, McConnell. We only have 9.7 points. We have exactly their same 18.5 PRA as his line. So the thing about McConnell is he's actually, even though when he wasn't shooting well, he was more confident, more aggressive than Halliburton was. I just think that's going to change. I think that Halliburton's got to snap out of it and reassume a dominant scoring role. And then Zubac, I think we had a question about Zubac's points and rebounds.
We did.
Hopefully not at the expense of Gafford in foul trouble.
Update from Wright State. They tied the game in the bottom of the 9th. So things could be looking up for them. We might have spoken too soon.
Zubac. We have value on over 11.5, even at minus 135. Maybe you get a minus 125 somewhere if you're lucky. And rebounds. We have under 10.5. So the line is heavily juiced at 10.5 at minus 152. So I wouldn't hate it, but I would probably stick with his points. He was really his combination of size and activity was obviously a little bit too much for Dallas in game 1. And that's not something that goes away. He's not shrinking and getting less athletic.
He's a beast.
Yeah. So, and he doesn't have somebody else on the bench who can, Plumlee has actually a very similar kind of profile, but he's a Plumlee. So,
yeah. So fair.
Yeah.
So real.
That.
Okay. One more question, then we'll hit the recap screen here that I missed. Jalen Smith will go back to the Pacers Milwaukee here to have a turnover. We do love our turnover props.
Yeah, I love when people are playing well or better. And Jalen Smith, I always avoid him because I thought he'd be so much better coming out of Maryland than he ended up being. But 2 turnovers, per game. He looked a little wild. He looked like he was trying to be a little aggressive. So I do like a guy who's had 4 turnovers in his last 32 minutes played. Again, very disappointed that Sticks, that's his nickname, didn't turn out to be a better pro.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just reminiscing, drifting off to my Maryland basketball. I was thinking about Chris Wilcox and Jalen Smith, 2 awesome power forwards for Maryland in recent memory that didn't pan out in the NBA.
Yeah. I was thinking the exact same thing, actually.
And that really packs in the ratings. Everyone's like, ooh, that's what's going to be the viral moment. Wistfully remembering Chris Wilcox in 2002.
Yes, that's what the people come for. All right, that's our screen from yesterday. Let's take a look at today's recap screen. Plenty going on here. We got some college plays. We got some MLB plays. I got the player prop party going on the bottom. We got the model plays on the top here for the NBA. Lots going on. We'll definitely go over these Wednesday games again tomorrow a little bit and answer some questions, but we do want to leave tomorrow mostly for the draft. So a lot of NFL draft stuff. Jake, I'll bring you back in here. I know you've been cooking up a lot for us. Anything that people can expect tomorrow?
I'm just working on gathering up all these RES scores, these relative athleticism scores from the past couple drafts.
Oh, yeah.
Doing a lot of unnecessary data that hopefully will pay off for you guys. And hopefully it pays off even for fantasy next year. If we could identify some of you guys who are boom or bust.
Jake does the tedious work, so we don't have to. Okay?
Yeah.
And no one else really wants to. So we respect. And we thank you. And we thank you that you're not in your 4th year of dental school as you're supposed to be right now and are instead sweating out college baseball on a Tuesday afternoon.
Yeah.
But that's why we're here. And with that said, bring your questions for the NFL draft tomorrow. Bring your questions for the NBA playoffs tomorrow as well. Good luck with your bets tonight. We'll see you guys then.